Okay, my name is Ben Lee. I'm with Cooper Lighting Controls. I know we have, at this point, I think most people here have attended a couple of the general lighting control trainings. No?
No.
Nope. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about anything before we start? All right. So the name of the lighting control system by us, which is Cooper, is called iLumen Plus. You might also hear it referred to as wavelengths wired. Oop. Okay, so the control system that I'm talking about and what we're going to go over encompasses the exterior building lights. There are lighting poles to come in the future. The corridors. And then as we move down, the tech, or what is it called? Tech Commons, the makers room, all of the admin. So what is it? There's the main admin, and then there's the district board office. The corridors in those two areas. As we keep going down, the kitchen, controlling the kitchen. We're controlling the dining room, or the dining area and the stage. We're controlling both of the gyms, and then we're controlling the weight room. So what we're talking about as far as lighting controls encompasses those rooms. It doesn't include classrooms like this one. The classrooms like this, as far as lighting control in here, this is another one of our products that's not really, you don't really have to program it or commission it. It's called Room Controller. So basically you have a box up in the ceiling. You have a sensor here in the middle of the room that detects movement. And then you have a wall switch on the wall right there. And when you walk in the room, when you leave the room, the sensor stops seeing motion, sends that signal back to the room controller or box that's up in the ceiling, and it shuts off the appropriate relays. Same thing with the wall switch. When we hit scene 1, for example, it turns the lights on, or the relays in the panel on, and then the dimmers, which are 0 to 10 volt dimming, to full.
These are the sensors, the little tiny thing up in the corner.
This is the occupancy sensor.
The glass.
Yep, this right here, this one right here.
Oh, okay.
It is a dual tech sensor, so it's passive infrared as well as ultrasonic, so it gives you the best amount of coverage. This one that you pointed out right here, this sensor, it's a receiver for our IR remote, so that you can actually configure the scene buttons, like you can set the levels and change them with the IR remote. And then it also senses the amount of light in the room.
So the remote, is that like for every classroom? Or is that like...
Yes, this one, this one's my remote, but yes, the remote will work in any classroom that has one of those sensors. It's just like a TV remote.
But the teacher doesn't have that?
No.
Will anyone here have that?
There was one listed on the bill of material, but the electrician has not been able to find it. So I'm just going to let our agent know that supplied the equipment that it can't be found, and we're going to look at providing another remote.
So can we go through what you said? Scene 1, and scene 1 is supposed to be what now?
The room on and bright. Yep. That's your main light to get, just the room's bright. Scene 2 is going to be a little bit dimmer.
And is that for every room? Because scene 2 was not programmed last time we talked.
Yes, I went through on the rooms that were on the punch list with the electrician earlier today, and I set the scenes in the rooms that were on the punch list. Yes.
Scene 3?
When you go to scene 3, this is your AV scene, so that we don't have the splash on the screen when you're showing a video.
Basically 2 lights on.
Well,
In this room. In other rooms, it'll be more, but the main light is off.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the next one says lower, so.
So the lower is going to dim all the lights in the room. So each, you press it, it'll go lower, lower,
So-
So
lower.
it's the same one first, so
There you
they
go.
all are on, and then you can lower them
I'm
all.
saying you keep it lower in each scene.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you go to scene one with all lights on,
Mhm.
then you could lower or raise. Okay, so the other question I have, you said that all rooms have motion sensors so that if there's no motion, after how long?
I think it was in reference to the classrooms. Yeah, so the default timing on our sensors, they start out at basically 10 minutes in their default mode, and then they monitor how you move in and out of the space. From that, they will add time or subtract time based on like how you move in and out of the space. Meaning, so for example, let's say that the sensor started at 10 minutes, okay? And let's say that, this is exaggerated, but let's say that someone was in the room for 10 minutes and then they left, okay? At the 10-minute mark of them leaving from the sensor seeing no movement, it would go ahead and shut off. And then let's say on the 11th minute that someone walked back into the room. At that point, the sensor would go ahead and add a minute. But that's exaggerated, and it doesn't happen like that fast, okay? If you're not happy with the auto learn feature, which that's how they come by default, if you pop the cover off, there's a number of dip switches and then a sticker that gives you like kind of a definition of what each one of the dip switches do or what their function is.
Back to Dan's question, it doesn't matter about the sensor here in terms of walking in. It's only relative to sensor motion in here and then shut
Keeping
them
the
off.
lights on, yeah.
And we can just get all our room, 10 minutes, shut them off.
That's the desire, so that's something we like to make sure all that's done. And we got to go from there.
How about that?
The next thing I might try to do is, well, is it possible to move the sensor, right?
Pop that off and show us what you're talking about.
No, it's up there.
Oh, you're talking
It's
about
the
this?
sensor,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the sensor. Is it possible to move a ceiling tile? And this isn't just our system, this is anyone's occupancy sensors. But yeah, try to get the sensor further away from the tile, if it's possible. And then as a last result, or a last effort, there's also a dip switch, which is number 5, and it says PIR sensitivity. If you flip dip switch 5 up, it will make the passive infrared technology half as sensitive. So there's not a dial to control it, it's either full or half. The building lights should turn on when it gets dark, and then, or before it gets dark. And then you should see all the corridors, and then in general, I guess I'll call them common spaces. That's really what I'm controlling, is common spaces. I think in most of those areas, like your gym, dining, yeah, they all have at least one, if not a couple, like night lights.
Right.
And the corridors, obviously, they have night lights. So it's not going to be completely black, even if everything's shut off, because you're still going to have corridors and any of the night lights in places. But the classrooms, they don't have, I don't believe that any of the classrooms have night lights.
So I was told that, so for example, Grande's room, 103. When you cut off all lights, one light stays on, then it eventually cuts off.
Yeah.
And when I inquired about that, they said that's your night light. But it eventually went off, so
So
it's not a night
there
light.
are, yeah, it's not a night light. There are emergency transfer devices on some of the circuits. So the idea is if the lost power, right? These devices would sense that power's been lost, and then they would be supplied with emergency power from the generator. And then those fixtures, or it's not going to be like whole rooms. It's only going to be like, you know, according to the size of the room, like 1 or 2 lights, right? Enough to get out, see, so you could get out. They would turn on in that scenario. And what you're describing is when in a normal running, we're not in any kind of emergency or anything like that. That delay that was described, I'm sure you're going to start to notice it in a lot more places, because anywhere there's a transfer device, there is going to be a delay, and then the lights attached to that transfer device will shut off.